Well, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
I guess this is my first podcast.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, Grant. I'm your father, Herb Denmark, with Merchant Services International for almost 31 years. And I'm sure that's what you want to talk to me about.
We can talk about whatever you want. We don't have to just talk about MSI.
I'm going to tell you a quick story because it's the holiday and it's one of my favorite stories that I've ever had happen to me while I was in, and I'm still in my business.
Yeah.
It was Christmas, it was a day before Christmas. That would make it Christmas Eve day. And a prospective merchant that I was trying to get on board was having problems with a competitive terminal. And they called the company and told them that they couldn't get a new terminal out to them until after the holiday. And this was a seasonal business that wouldn't be able to operate properly without the terminal. So listening to their troubles, I said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you one of my new terminals. You're going to call your processor, have them program the new terminal, and then after the holiday, you're going to come switch your business to me. And she said, you would do that for me? I said, yes, I'd be happy to. So I did that, and shortly after the holiday, she switched to me, and she's been a merchant of mine for almost 22 years.
You like that one?
I do like that one. It's one
That's a good one.
There's a story with an old story that people my age and older remember, and it's a story from a movie, Miracle on 34th Street, when somebody walked into a department store called Macy's and they didn't have the product, and they said, send them over to Gimbel's. And I never forgot that as a child, and I was able to actually implement something like that on my own with this particular story that's a true story that I did. And that woman probably referred me 15 to 20 clients over the course of 22 years. We remained friends, and I felt really good about that. And it's been something that I've done for most of my career. Competitive companies walk in and they say, oh, we're out of paper, and I'd hand them paper for their terminal, and that's how I won them over, and proud of stuff like that. You know, I often say it's enough. That's my comment to my business, in that I see people getting taken advantage of by the merchant services all the time. They pay high fees to lease equipment. They pay enormous fees that they're not even aware of. And when I come in, I tell them due to the fact that there's usually 10 items on their statements, we can reduce or eliminate 5 of them. And upon doing that, they see the results right away. There's a tremendous savings, and they're very grateful. With what we do, we become a necessary evil. We become a partner to them. I look at myself as a utility with them, where they have to pay the rent, they have to pay their electric bill.
That's where I do disagree with you.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I feel as though, old school payment processing, you're going door to door for many years, you were kind of looked at as like a service. But nowadays, I think that there's been a change in how people buy things. I think people buy things with their eyes. And I think that you can provide value in addition to doing traditional payment processing in other areas, like, offering ways of filling a restaurant or filling a hair salon or doing X, Y, or Z giveaway online with your company that then increases their revenue outside of just mitigating their credit card fees, eliminating their credit card fees, creating a residual stream for them. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to doing with Sleft. And the podcast, episode number 1, maybe this will be in it, maybe it won't. I don't know what I'm doing here, but I do know that if I can hopefully get enough eyes on me and my merchants that I'm processing for and people that we're trying to help and work with, we can create an audience for them and we can create additional value for them, and people would invest more of their time and energy and money into small businesses, and instead of going to Men's Warehouse, not like there's anything wrong with Men's Warehouse. This is from Men's Warehouse and we love it. But instead of going to Men's Warehouse, they'll go to, Sunsilk Tailor, right? In my backyard. And that's another way of creating value for a merchant outside of traditional credit card processing. So I'm saying it's just a new, I'm trying to bring a new level of, help, and I'm trying to create a system for the businesses that I work with that increases their ROI outside of just mitigating their credit card fees, eliminating the credit card fees.
Sounds interesting. It's not what I do. It's something new to me. I hear what you're saying. I've known a lot of companies that have tried to deviate from just helping people with their merchant services and trying to set up websites and try to accommodate their needs for building their traffic flow. There's some very successful businesses, I'm sure, that have done that, but it's just not the area that I've ever ventured into.
Yeah. It's been tough. That restaurant that I took you and Mom to the other night, they're working with a marketing agency that's charging them $300 a month, and they're putting up all, Instagram posts every single day, and they get like 1 like, 2 likes, and I don't even know if they see any revenue from that service that basically came in and said, oh my God, we're going to, do crazy marketing for you. We're going to fill your restaurant. It never happened. And
Right.
it's kind of sad to see that. And I've prospected other restaurants that I haven't closed, and I go on their socials and I see that they're getting, they're posting Happy Thanksgiving, Happy Black Friday, come in, like every single day, consistent, like professionally, right?
Okay.
Yet they're getting 1 to 2 likes.
Right.
It's not an actually engaging audience. It's just fake.
Right.
And I have a problem with that. And I'm trying to change that narrative for some of these companies that are paying for services that they don't need, whether it's high credit card fees or a marketing agency that's not increasing their ROI or providing any value whatsoever. So I'm trying to just do a deep dive into multiple verticals over the next couple of months to years, find the pain points, identify them, and come up with solutions for them. Which is essentially the same thing you do in medicine. Someone walks in the office, they have an issue, they're sick, they have a broken leg. You identify the issue, you solve it, you put a splint on the injury, you cast it, you give them a medication, and then you move on. It's like that's kind of how I'm seeing working with SMBs, small to medium-sized businesses, in this space.
It's challenging.
I mean,
it's very challenging. You're trying to do, or you're addressing that you want to do marketing and advertising for them alongside of saving them money with credit card processing.
not just that, but question for you, Dad. You have, credit card processing historically has been a lot of undercutting people. You come in, you offer them a lower rate on credit card processing. Anyone can undercut you. Anyone can undercut me. Why do people stay with Herb Denmark? Why should anyone stay with Sleft?
The loyalty is just that you tell them you're going to do something and you do it. And you show them the savings, and you don't raise the rates. You explain to them that every April and October, Visa and MasterCard do raise their rates. That's something you can't control. But the rates that you set with them, you're not going to deviate from, and they appreciate that. There are people that say they're not going to raise the rates, and it becomes an introductory rate, and then ultimately 3 months, 6 months, a year later, they're raising the rates and not really telling the merchant, which is, an unethical thing to do, in my opinion. And our industry starts to lose credibility, and clearly the processor that they're with loses credibility, so they start shopping. And when somebody says that they're going to honor a rate and keep it that way, they will start referring you business. They trust you, and you become a partner of theirs. They want to tell you more about their business, their pains, their strengths, and as somebody that's been networking my whole life in the industry, you work with them as best you can.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like with service companies, SaaS companies, any company, you have to continue surprising and delighting your customers, whether it's, giving a free dessert at the end of the meal, or the guy the hotel you're staying at in Philly, AKA, when he was like, by the way, here are 2 free drink vouchers on us after he gave you the whole orientation. Completely unexpected.
Correct.
Those are the types of things, in my opinion, that I've been picking up from my readings and, videos that.
It's a simple phrase.
Yeah.
You want to be able to under-promise and over-deliver. And if you can do that, it's a nice surprise to people, and it's how you would want to be treated and how you treat others.
So how do you do that in payment processing?
If you're going to tell somebody that you're going to lower the rate, you can show it to them in writing, and then you honor that rate. And you're building a trust with them. As I often say, in doing what we do, we have our hand in their cash register, and they have to trust who they're signing up with, what they're saying they're going to do, and they do it. It's often hinged on having the right equipment, the right service, the right customer service, the right IT support. And if all that's in place, then you have a well-oiled machine that you're presenting to a prospective customer.
Right.
I'm from the old school where you go door to door, or you call on the phone, and with new technology, some of that's too antiquated for people, and other people that are older, more senior in the businesses that they're in, they like seeing somebody. Where there are other businesses, I have clients that I've never met, never seen, talk on the phone, honor the rate, set them up, and basically live happily ever after. So it goes both ways. It's just a matter of the business, the industry, and what you're offering. And I really believe a lot is based on timing.
How did you build such a big book over the years? Like, what are some strategies that you could tell prospective salesmen, whether they're in payment processing or selling solar or real estate or fintech? Like, what are some of the gems that you've learned along the way?
Well, in our industry, the number one source of getting the best leads is clearly from a bank. People go to a bank, they have to sign up for their business checking account, and if the bank is referring them who to utilize for their merchant services, they typically go there, and that's an open and shut case. So it's always wonderful when you have a bank referral. The other key source or place to go for referrals is accounting firms. Clearly, every business needs an accountant. So if an accountant is happy with your service there, and they start suggesting that their clients use your service, that's another great source. Attorneys can refer business, and then clearly the other one that's ideal is getting your referrals from your existing merchants.
Yeah. So out of those 5-10 things you just mentioned, like, what are some ones that really knocked it out of the park for you? Like, let's not waste time.
Banks are number one. Accountants are
Okay.
number two. And then I would say getting referrals from your existing merchant base is number three. Because all three add tremendous credibility for somebody to take the chance and work with you. Processors will periodically give you referral sources and leads, depending on the relationship you have with the processor. And it becomes a win-win situation for those vehicles to get leads.
Okay. I think it's important that people hear about how you got successful in payment processing, and like you had a full-time job in radio.
Yes.
You made the switch.
I made the switch. Well, I started.
Put the mic a little closer to your mouth.
I started in the payment process service when I had a friend of mine owned a marketing company, and he said, we need a merchant account. And I said, what's that? He said, go next door to the bank and get one. We got one. We had the business up and running for a short time, and I was very enamored with how how the merchant business worked, in that we had customers utilizing merchant processing, and it was quite successful for about 2 or 3 years. Then the business just fell out. It was a temporary business, and I had then left that business and went into advertising and radio. And I always thought, my goodness, if I could ever get back into that, I just love the idea of having passive income and making money in your sleep. And I had another friend of mine say, look, we're going to, we need merchant services for the gaming industry. This is back in the 80s. And we need you to help us try to find banks that will accommodate casinos online. And I said, sure, it sounds exciting. So my job was to go out, find a bank that would process credit cards for these businesses. And unfortunately, in the world of payment processing, the threshold for chargebacks is 1%. These folks were charging back anywhere between 18 and 20%. And so every 90 to 120 days, they'd get shut down or frozen. And then we were chasing banks all over the world to try to get them set up again. At that point, after a couple of years, I had another friend of mine say, you know what, you seem like a good guy. You know what you're doing. Struggling in high risk. Why don't you just go into traditional brick and mortar business? And I said, having a young family at the time, I said, it sounds like a good idea. And I never looked back, didn't really do much more in high risk, and made a name for myself going out on the street and signing up retail businesses and signing up restaurants and hoagie shops and Chinese restaurants and dry cleaners and supermarkets and hotels and gas stations and laundromats and nail salons and hair salons and barber shops and on and on and on and on and on. And it's what I did. You know, I was fortunate enough to have seasonal business because I went down to the Jersey Shore. I had businesses all over the country because I hired people from everywhere you can imagine: California, Florida, Texas, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Boston, Chicago. And I just loved what I did. I went to a lot of shows that were offered in our industry. There's some very big ones that were annual. And I made a name for myself, and I got to know people, and they trusted me. I trusted them. I worked with some really great processors. I learned more about the business on several different levels where you can buy and sell portfolios. That's probably another story, another time. And went from my first check of $56 in 2000, I guess it was maybe 1996 or 1997. And my first check was for $56. And by the time it was 2012, my residual check then was $56,000. So growed exponentially over a 10, 12, 15-year period. What else can I tell you?
I don't know. I feel like it's important for this podcast and like where I'm heading with this for people to just recognize the value in someone like you who has built so much trust and done so much grunt work with SMBs over the years, to know that there are people out there that exist and aren't going to just take advantage of them.
It's the only way to build a business.
Yeah.
You're building yours now. You have people that are counting on you. They have questions about customer service, how they get their funds. With a lot of point of sale systems, the POS systems, they ask you, how things are integrated, how things are set up so that they can identify their inventory, how things are set up so they can do their accounting. All that exists now on POS systems. So, the technology changes all the time. It's usually very specialized for different businesses and to accommodate the needs of the merchant. And you got to be on top of your game.
Have you had, I know you are a big believer in like staying in your lane and just kind of, like a dog doing what you're told over and over and over again. And I think that most successful people that I've heard from are doing that stuff. But I'm wondering, like, have you ever thought to yourself, like, how do I amalgamate all of these SMBs into one amazing thing? Like, yes, you're collecting a residual check from their credit card processing. Yes, you're saving them money every month. You're providing them customer service. It's no longer a problem, if it ever was one in their business, to do payment processing, which is an amazing thing, and that's been your job. But I'm just wondering if you've ever been like, oh my God, I have 200, 300 businesses at my disposal right now. Like, have you considered upselling them? Did you consider providing value in any other ways?
No. Honestly, I haven't. It's always been brought to my attention. It's always been brought to my...
That's why I'm here, everyone.
To the forefront of my business, Herb, would you consider, setting these people up for that need websites? Or Herb, can you help them, market their business? It's not what I do. You go to...
Get the Sleft sign going.
You go to a specialist and... you're there for a specific reason. It's the school that I came from. You stay in your lane, you do what you do best. And my business is constantly evolving. Once upon a time, when people would get set up, there was a knuckle buster that would accommodate them, where you would slide the credit card through a manual machine with a carbon piece of paper, where it would imprint the raised lettering off of a card. Well, now today the card is flat. The card has a chip in it. There's no imprinting. They used to send you a metal plate that would go underneath the card and the paper, so it would be imprinted. None of that exists today. But back to your original question, staying in my lane is the only way I know. Helping a business market or advertise. There are companies that I would refer them to, but it's not something that I would do. It wouldn't be on my shelf of things to do. I'm a payment processor, and it's what I do. I do it well. People trust me. People refer business to me, and it's how I've built the business. Being entrepreneurial, you can always find another shiny penny down the road, but that may not be the one you should be going towards.
Right.
So.
How have you cut through the bullshit over a 40-year career?
You can size things up pretty quickly if you're comfortable with doing something or not doing something. Your gut usually tells you right away.
So you think it's intrinsic? You don't think it's something that can be taught?
No, I think it could be taught. I just think you have to know what you're good at. And I'm not an IT person, so I lean on of the IT people. The customer service people, is somebody else. It's another group that's very, very valuable in what we do. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the IT people that are in our business. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the customer service people that are in our business. They're my team. They're my partners. They're the people that I have to count on all day, every day. And therefore, they should be treated with the utmost respect. I've often heard many times through my career that anxious salespeople will get on the phone and start ranting and raving to IT people and to customer service people. They don't seem to realize that they're the backbone of how we do our business all day, every day. These are just small things that, treat people kindly all the time.
Wait, when you say merchants are ranting and raving to customers?
Not merchants, sales agents. When sales agents are called by a merchant to fix something, the salesperson will then get on the phone with the customer service department or the IT department, start yelling at them as if it's their fault that something's wrong, when they're there to help fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So a salesperson should be getting on the phone with customer service or IT support, realizing that we're all on the same team and we're here to help the merchant at the end of the day, but they should be treated with the utmost respect.
How's your golf game been?
It's improving. It's improving.
Where are you at now? What's your average shot?
I've dropped down from probably a 35 to I'd say I'm under 25 now. It's feeling good.
Is that a joke? I wouldn't even get it. I thought that people shoot in the 80s and 90s.
Oh no, I'm saying what my
your handicap?
What my handicap is.
Well, what's a good handicap?
Oh, a handicap.
Five.
A good
10?
Handicap is very low, in the single digits.
Right. You're not at 35, Dad.
No. I started at about 35.
You started at 35.
I'm probably close to 25 now. It's coming down.
That's pretty good.
Coming down.
So
I broke 100. I'm in the 90s now. I'm happy.
Do you think you're going to stay in Ibis?
I think I'm going to stay in Ibis, sure. I love Ibis. It's a great place to live in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Do you think that there are more merchant services opportunities in South Florida or Philadelphia or New York? If you're watching this and you're considering, payment processing as a side hustle or as a full-time way of doing income, geographically, where would you recommend someone start?
Well, clearly anybody that's in a city is going to have a very big advantage because there's a lot of businesses there. The disadvantage is that there's a lot of businesses there. They're often,
solicited.
They're solicited constantly. So,
right.
It really, I constantly say this over and over again. It boils down to trusting people and doing the right thing and putting yourself in their shoes. You take a restaurant owner. The restaurant owner's got to lease the space, buy the product, advertise, hire cooks, hire chefs, hire busboys, hire wait staff, keep the lights on, keep the electric going, keep everything clean, and then they have to deal with payment processing people that hopefully are giving them, the straight story and the right product and the ability to process, efficiently with no headaches, and move on with their day. So it's a tough game. There's no barrier to entry in our business. There's a lot of people that get into it and get out of it. But if you stick with it and you like people, it can be very, very lucrative.
I think that one thing that's extremely valuable from people who are of your generation that aren't really thinking like this anymore, and it's such a shame that it isn't the case, Dad, is that people who grew up doing jobs that you did, it was almost expected that you'd show up early, leave late, work as hard as you could, and work wasn't really like an option.
Correct.
And it's interesting as someone considering a career, full-time in payment processing to, like, candidly, I'm like, all right, am I doing this because of the residual check that then allows me to not just have to, make money off of the hours of work I'm putting in a month? Or am I doing this for the right reasons, which is how you and people who are your age built incredible businesses? Like, for example, if you go in to do payment processing for a company, you're waiting on them hand and foot from the second they say yes to the second they start processing. And then you're still waiting on them hand and foot. It should not have changed, but it has changed in so many different businesses too. Like, if you go to McDonald's nowadays in West Palm Beach or in Philly, half of them are saying, like, our McFlurry shakes are not working right now. Our ice cream machine isn't working. And granted, that's probably good for my health. But in my opinion, I think to some degree, they're not willing to, entertain operating an ice cream machine for the whole night. So they literally just say, it's not working right now. Similarly, like in payment processing, someone can come in and have all these issues, and then the payment processor ghosts them. Or if you rented a new apartment and someone shows you the apartment, they set you up, you sign the lease, and then you have 5 things that go wrong the first week. Happened to me, by the way, true story. And you never hear from them again. You can't get in touch with management. I mean, these are just fucking nightmares that people have to deal with.
I would agree.
But it's a real thing. I'm saying, like, there are companies out there more likely than not nowadays that don't provide excellent customer service.
Well, that's the biggest thing. When I got started, there was a company that I worked with that I absolutely loved. They were sold Orion Payment Systems. They were my first and one of my favorite places to be. And they said, Herb, we have 24/7 customer service. And it was right after I had done my international processing, chasing banks all over the world, where I was up sometimes at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning talking to people. And I said, you know what, just for the hell of it, I'm going to call their customer service line at 2 o'clock in the morning and pretend I'm a restaurant owner, and somebody just spilled the beer all over the terminal, and can they help me, and how can they help me, and are they able to help me? And they picked up the phone right after the second ring. And
what'd they say?
I stayed with them for almost. I stayed with them, till they sold their business, and then several years after that with the new owner. But there are companies that say they have 24/7 customer service, and you wind up getting a voicemail, or they say that. Then once they've signed up, you call them in an off hour. They say, these are our hours. We don't have anybody available right now. That's not acceptable when you're counting on 24/7. So that's an important feature, I think, to a restaurant that's open till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, or that needs that service. And you also have time changes across the country, where you could be in New York and something's happening in California. Fortunately, it's a 3-hour difference in the favor of California, but it could be a detriment to people that are living in New York if the customer service is not available. So, just more things I take into account. I concern myself with. You want proper reporting done for the merchant as well, so that they know that they're getting their money right away.
What's on the horizons for Herb Denmark? How old are you? 61?
61. My goal now is to help my son any way I can.
So that means answering my calls when you're not on the golf course, right?
With whatever he wants to do in his career, as long as he's aware of the fact that it's a lot of work, it's hard work, and one thing I tell young reps when they're
I
out
hate
on,
that word, rep. I hate that word.
well, agent or consultant.
All
whatever you
three
wanna
are
call it.
shit. You should use, I think it's partner
You
or
could say-
owner.
You could say partner, you could say owner, but here's the
No
bottom.
one wants to be a rep.
here's
No
the-
one's doing payment processing to be a rep.
Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is, when you're new to the business, you have to be willing to accept the fact that you're not going to know everything. And to me, the smartest agents will stand there and tell a merchant, let me get back to you with that answer, not making one up. Because usually when something is made up, it's fabricated, it comes out wrong, it appears like a lie, and then the trust is gone. If you don't know what you're doing, tell the merchant, let me get back to you with the answer, and not make something up. You go back to customer service, you go back to IT support, you get the proper answer, you go back to the merchant, and then you can work through the entire deal with them. You're making something up that you can't deliver on a promise, you're losing your credibility. And I think that's very, very important. And you're doing it. You know, you've put on a POS system recently that, you know, you needed IT support. You got them on the phone. They walked you through everything. And the merchant was comfortable and you were comfortable. You could lean on them with questions and got answers right there on the spot. And it got set up very smoothly without a hitch. And that's the way to operate with stuff like this. So on that note, I'm very proud of you.
Thanks.
You'll get difficult clients that, you know, want things that don't exist, that they misconstrue, that they don't understand what you're doing, what you're saying, what they're saying. They get told that they're paying low rates when they're paying high rates. They don't know what the rates are.
That's a real thing right there.
It is a real thing, and I often say, you know, it's just enough already. That, you know, I think that
maybe you should start your own podcast. It's enough already.
It's enough already. You know, stop taking advantage of these people. I've often said that
it is insane how like taken advantage of they are.
Well, I have a whole group of Amish vendors that I've had for 25 years.
Talking to the mic.
I've had for 25 years, and the issue with them is when I first came on board, I had one guy that said, you know, I'll give you a shot, and I looked at his statement, and he was paying almost 4% 25 years ago with a 75-cent transaction fee, leasing equipment for $150 a month. And I said, you don't lease the equipment, and I'll cut your rates down where you wouldn't believe it.
No problem.
So
We're all human.
we got his rates down to a very reasonable rate. Got him new equipment, got him set up, and the Amish market, the Amish vendors are all related to one another. And in a 2-year period,
What is that supposed to mean?
Well, in a 2-year period, I had almost 150 Amish vendors because.
Wow, that is crazy numbers, man.
The Amish, you know,
Jeez.
Zook would tell Fritz, and Fritz would tell Byler, and Byler would tell Stolfus, and it just went on and on and on. And
Now you're just making up names.
No. These are legitimate people, and I had ultimately 250 Amish vendors between 14 farmers markets.
Wow.
And you know, they referred me to themselves, and they referred me to outside vendors as well. So it was a wonderful relationship for a very, very long period of time. And I have a number of them still. What else can I tell you? Man, you're good looking. I think we're going to end this now.
We can end it.
It's a very exciting first time.
Very exciting first time, first moment in history. This is probably going to be the worst podcast I'll ever do.
It probably will be, but the fact that it's Denmark and Denmark is pretty exciting.
It really is.
I love you.
I love you too.
Good night.
Good night.